Welcome to Buckets. Oh, I haven't said that in so long. So good to be back. My name is Matt Moore. I'm a senior NBA writer for the Action Network. This is your daily NBA betting podcast throughout the regular season. Buckets from the Action Network. Glad to have you guys with us. I'm joined by Joe Dellera. I'm joined by Jim Turvey of Roto Grinders. You can catch Joe Dellera on the Cash That podcast. You can catch him making bets, sweating bets, all sorts of stuff. Check it out over on his Twitter page at Joe Dellera and in the Action Network app. Jim Turvey's from Roto Grinders. He's doing projections on the daily, grinding out all the numbers for baseball and WNBA. He's the host of our WNBA Bucket Show, which you should be listening to and making money off of. They are the future Jays, and we are back for the 2026 NBA season. Consider this your official tip-off of future season here at Buckets. Today, this is like the first day of practice. Just going to get in there, get some shots up, get loose, get some laps in. We're just going to talk about some stuff. We'll give you some best bets. We'll have some stuff to talk about. It can be found in the award-winning Action Network app, and we'll actually show that to you if you're watching over at youtube.com/the Action Network, which you should be, because you get to see our smiling faces, including my dope new Colorado hat that cost me a pretty penny. I had a hat that was just like this, only gray, and now it's blue. So you should come see it, because that's different to new.
Wait, so it's like the state of Colorado?
Yes, it is a state of Colorado. Kyle Lowry was like your hat, and I was like, thanks. He's a Cubs fan. I was like, no, it's Colorado. He's like, I don't like it then. And I was like, okay. That's my Kyle Lowry story. Okay. So we have a lot to talk about today. As a reminder, everything we talk about can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. You're going to be hearing a lot about the app in the next coming weeks. There is a lot of great features planned for the app that are going to be coming out in the newest release once football season gets going. Download it now so that you don't have to go through the process then. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be lots of cool stuff. You're going to see a lot of the features here on Buckets. We'll guide you through it. We'll help you see it. All that more in the Action Network app. Make sure to do that. Like I said, check out youtube.com/the Action Network. Okay. Let's talk some hoops. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. So I asked the fellas, I wanted to do a I know what you bet last summer episode. And as it is still August, we got to today when we were recording, and Jim was like, wait, I thought we were doing from last year because that would be last summer. But no, I was like, no, like this summer, so we can talk about the stuff that you guys have bet in the NBA over the summer. I have a handful of things that we can kind of talk about, but I think it's more interesting to get into what Jim and Joe have talked about. I think especially interesting, I want to start here. So if you listen to this podcast, you no doubt have gotten a handful of bonus bets or additional stuff or free bets, those kind of things at your various sports books. And one thing that we were talking about, Joe Dellera was talking about, is like, I mostly have been betting futures using these. And I think that brings up some interesting questions. I want to talk about timing, but Joe, let's kind of start there. If you're going to tie up your money for a year, why not tie it up with free bets?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good way to not use cash, honestly. I think if you're using cash, you have to always think about the time value of money, where it's like, all right, well, I'm going to have this money tied up, especially if you're betting in the summer for maybe like 10 months where you can't use it. It's not part of your bankroll really anymore, and you kind of have to readjust. And for us, we're pretty big futures bettors. I think that it's something that you can kind of use with free bets. It's a good way to try to convert them into cash as well. And it allows you to start building a position earlier in the offseason. And I'm not usually as worried about being, having a little bit of tinier amounts on some of these bets as the offseason progresses. Like if I'm betting something fun, like if I want to bet a home run parlay and I get a bonus bet back or something like that because it probably lost, then it's at least some way to try to convert it into something that I know I'm capable of doing, or I feel a little bit more comfortable doing. So I think that using bonus bets to build that portfolio over the offseason is a really good way to do so without dipping into your funds that maybe you want to use when the NBA season actually starts, for betting sides, totals, player props, whatever. Or, sometimes that you don't have, maybe you don't get certain free bets on different books. And when we're always looking for the best line, free bets are a way where you can say, well, I'm not as concerned that I didn't get the best line here because I just need to be able to use this. It's going to expire in a day or two, and I want to get a little bit more exposure on this piece of the market. So I love using free bets, and I think it's one of the best ways that you can diversify your portfolio throughout the course of the season, especially during the off season.
Yeah, I think I think it's a good way for you to be able to kind of log this stuff, and it puts that money, I think, to better use than rather than just always going to be in like, oh, just tag this onto another game or a lesser bet. Like, this is a way for you to get in on those things where it's like, I want to bet this, but also tying up that money long term, especially if it's like a long shot, which we give out a lot here on Buckets because we're always chasing the big wins. I think that's a pretty good approach, Jim.
Yeah. Joe talked about the time value of money, and that is 100% something people should be thinking about. I always think with futures, I mean, part of why I love futures so much is that there is the time value of money to consider. There's also the bang for the buck. Like if you put $50 on a game for a night, it just churns through and you spent your $50 and it was, it's either plus or minus 5 to 10% ROI. So really it's like a $5 exchange for a day, something like that. If you put $50 on something for the whole season, for an NBA season, you get 82 games worth of entertainment for that. So I know from a very like dollars and cents perspective, 100% the time value of money has to be considered. I got into like my favorite way of betting, the way I got into it was betting futures because I didn't have a big bankroll, and I was like, I want to have fun watching the Tampa Bay Rays this season, so I'm going to put $50 on them to win the AL pennant. They won the AL pennant, and that was such a fun roller coaster ride of a season. Now that was a shorter MLB season, but the point remains that there's like time value, maybe there's also entertainment value, and bang for your buck on futures I think is about as good as you can get out there. And I really love I love using the bonus bets on them. I really like doing it the way Joe does it, of like kind of portfolio building. Because we all know if we're bettors, there's teams that we're like, man, like I just want a piece of that team, right? Like, it's like I don't know if like the Nuggets number is as good as it used to be, and I probably missed like with the Cam Johnson news. I just kind of think they're going to win the title. I want to bet on the Nuggets. I think that's what those bonus bets are really, really good for. Of like I can't super justify this right now, but like this bonus bet's burning a hole in my pocket. So let me throw this on, Nuggets title. Let me throw it on. I saw Joe logged some long shot, most improved player, or whatever it may be, and run with it from there. So I definitely like that approach of using those bonus bets, and I think that there's multiple considerations: how big your bankroll is in terms of how long you want to tie up money for, if you can use credit of whatever sort for that, or if you're like, listen, I want to just like I'm a Knicks fan, I want to put over 53 and a half wins for the season. That'll be kind of like I'm paying $1 a night to kind of sweat with them. I always like that aspect of it as well.
One thing that's cool is actually I did want to kind of point this out, because if you're like, well, I want to bet these things, but I don't want to log them in the Action Network app because it's it's not an actual, it's a bonus bet. Well, I have good news for you then, because in fact, if you check us out, youtube.com/the Action Network, you're going to be able to see that there actually is a way in the app for you to be able to do this. Like you can actually log bonus bets in the app itself, which I think is pretty cool. So if you check it out at youtube.com and kind of see this. So here's a Grizzlies. The best market price is 16-1 to win the Southwest Division. I'm going to probably be on this by the time that we get done with all of our future stuff, because I just simply don't have the Rockets as dominant in my numbers as the market suggests. Now, I think the Rockets are going to be awesome, but I think there's a little bit of variance there, and I think the Grizzlies, as a matter of fact, are very underrated. So it's 16-1. It's pretty valuable. If you go to this little ... here after book and then add note, you'll see make a free bet. Click that on, click done, and you are good to go with making a free bet using a bonus bet at Action Network in the Action Network app. So just like a cool thing that we've got to be able to add in those bonus bets.
Matt, can I hop in super quick?
Yeah.
And spoil, we're going to do some bets later. I was debating giving out Grizzlies division. I was like, no, Matt's going to yell at me because Matt hates the Grizzlies and he's always down on the Grizzlies. So that's well, let's have that as an early little tease for the folks. I'm with you. I'm interested in the Grizzlies, and I actually wanted, I like before I looked at anything, I do, I think Brandon does this as well. I'm sure all you guys do this, where kind of make your own numbers. And then you're like, okay, I'll make this bet if it's at X. And I was like, I'll bet the Rockets division if it's at like minus 200. I think I would be on them at that number. It's like minus 450 or something crazy. I think the book's over adjusted on the Rockets, and they're now a little bit too high on them. I'm with you on being Memphis curious. I've got another bet around them later. But I love that we're already in lockstep on one of these futures.
Yeah, I have Memphis schedule adjusted, which was the interesting thing for me, because I actually go through and I project it for the entire schedule to get a schedule accurate number. I have them at 51.5 wins, which is optimistic, but
that's a big number.
I know it's a very big number, but that's why I think taking shots like this on division is probably going to be where I'm at, though I will give Jim a chance to talk me into Grizzlies over here in a little bit as well. Before we give out some more best bets, just let's talk a little bit about the timing of these things. Mm-hmm. One of the things that causes us content creators, I think, a lot of stress, especially for these two fine gentlemen, is, well, I got this at a really good number and now it's gone. It's been eradicated. It no longer exists. This is really tough because Joe, okay, so if we think about like the Michael Fiddle of it all, right? And we think about like if it's a spread number and it's minus 3.5, if that number is 1.5, unless I understand being like, okay, I wanted it at 3.5. That was the best of the number. I'm no longer getting the best of the number. It's moved too much. However, if you have a number and your number says that this thing should still be, 3.5, it moves to 5.5. Sorry, I haven't done this in a little bit. If you still think it should be minus 7, you're still looking at 2 points of value here. And so there's still kind of value on it. And my angle is always, I've kind of told everybody, look, I think you should log it. I think you should give what you bet it at. Do it immediately. Don't wait. That's a problem, is when we wait. And then people, like in our Discord, which you guys should check out because I think everybody listening would probably have fun in there. In the Discord, they're like, why would you post this? This number is already gone. And it's like, because it was there when I got it. And you gotta kind of post it. And what we're gonna be doing a lot of that this year on the show is being like, hey, these are your bets, have you posted them? Post them now so people can get them, and then you can hear the reasoning later, because we don't want people missing out on good bets just in order to save it for the podcast. And so from that perspective, because you're still, I know the people will still want to hear why Jim and Joe are betting what they are, as well as all of our guys. So I'm of that kind of opinion. But Joe, I more wanted to ask you about this of, okay, it was 10-1. Let's say that you're in that position. It was 10-1. You liked it at 10-1. Now it's 8-1. Like, what's your determining factor for these future markets when you're still getting pretty good return on them, and when you should walk away because the numbers move too much?
I think it depends on like the why. Like, why is it moving? Especially in the off season, there's not a lot of liquidity in these markets, right? So you're seeing, if a group comes in, or if even we put out a podcast and people start tailing a bet that we suggest, that number could just get torched, and that's just going to be the way that it is, right? Because then between now and the start of the regular season, in theory, like really nothing is going to happen, right? Maybe there's a trade. At this point, it's a little bit late, right? If maybe somebody gets hurt, that's something that could swing it. But other than that, we're kind of looking at a situation where maybe it's there's no other intervening act right now. So sometimes I'd be looking at it and saying, okay, well, am I going to be able to get another opportunity for this line to maybe come the other way? Because if I'm betting something thinking, all right, well, this team I think is going to coalesce, not right at the beginning of the season, they made a big move. I think that they're going to be like better later, like come the All-Star break, then maybe there's a little bit of an opportunity to bet them later on. Whereas on the flip side, like when Naz Reid won Sixth Man of the Year, we had talked about it on Buckets. That was now 2 years ago, but we had talked about it a couple different times, saying like Nas should probably get a look. He should probably get a look. He should probably get a look. And then somebody got hurt, and then he had like a 30-point, like back-to-back 30-point games or something. And I remember like we all were like live betting the number. So I think you had a really good number, Matt, maybe like 30-1 or 40-1. And then there was a point where during the game, it was like 17-1 or something like that. And I was like, I'm just going to bet this. Like, this number is going to be gone and I'm never going to see it again. So I think at that point, because there was an intervening act, then it's like, all right, well, I'm never going to get to 30-1 again. That's just never going to be there. And it's about being able to read the market and saying, well, was there something that happened here, like because of an on-court dynamic or like a trade or something like that? Or do I just think this is off-season, like market liquidity where, there was a lot of action for whatever reason. And then a book said, well, like we don't want as much exposure at this price on this player or on this market at this point in time. So I think there's a lot of like trying to read the market with this. And also, being able to say, all right, well, what are my outs? And am I going to have another opportunity later? If not, do I need that good of a number in order to have exposure on it? Or is there still a little bit of meat on the bone?
Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot there from Joe. I think that we'll talk more about like timing in general, but I do think it's a really good perspective to be thinking about the market you are attacking and when in the year you want to be attacking it, when the off season you want to be attacking. We talk about like wins. There's a couple of like marquee times during the off season. I mean, right when they drop, they're going to be like the softest they are, but you're locking up money for longer. You don't know the schedule yet. All transactions haven't necessarily moved yet. You're doing a lot of unknowns. So you're locking in a lot at like a -110, which kind of comes back to my point that I was when you were talking about this. I was thinking, because your analogy was a point spread, right? Like 3.5 to 5.5 or whatever it may be. And obviously, spread isn't exact implied probability, but we can flip that into a money line easy enough. So say it's 3.5 point favorite. That's maybe like a -135, something like that. To a 5.5 point favorite is maybe -160. If you're thinking in implied odds, you're thinking about what the gap in implied probability is there as well. Now we've talked before about whether spreads and money lines perfectly map and if they're perfectly correlated and if it's perfectly correlated for every team and whether it should be or not. But to simplify this the most, when a market moves, there's an implied probability that moves as well. You're betting into what was the Nuggets 57% to win. Now it's Nuggets 60% to win, something like that. Some of these crazy, I logged a bet that that was talking to you about before the show that was plus 40,000. Yeah, I think it was plus 40,000. So basically a 400 to 1. And now it's down to 200 to 1. It's cut in half. That seems like, oh man, less than half the payout. But if you think about it from implied odds, it moved like 0.25%. So there's different types of chasing. But then what we always talk about with long shots, it's this weird amorphic thing where the half the payout is actually a big deal. So you really do have to balance like, how likely is this? Thinking implied probabilities, always good to think in implied probabilities when you're doing this betting and think about how much that's shifted. Something like the Nuggets going from plus 1,400 to plus 1,800, that's actually a pretty notable shift in implied odds. That is a little bit of chasing. Like I think that, especially when you're looking at like 30 teams that can win a title, maybe not 30 teams, but X amount of teams that can win a title, going from plus 1,400 plus 800 is actually a pretty notable shift, even if it doesn't like catch your eye as looking as that big of a shift. It's a pretty big implied odds shift. So just try and think, at least make that your baseline of thinking that way. You don't have to have a perfect model that spits out Nuggets, 12% to win. Okay, I'll hit now or whatever. Just try and be thinking that way and think, balancing implied odds with payout, with the time value of money, with like, how much do I want to watch this for the season? There's a lot of factors going on, but I think that's how everyone here at Buckets who's going to be approaching the futures market, that's all the things they're balancing. So if you're, listening to this program and hopefully, like the takeaways and the approach that we have towards betting, I think those are just some of the things that we are trying to balance in our brain as we're doing all of this on our own.
As far as, I think timing, Jim, want to talk about a little bit. A good example, I think, is there are numbers that I don't know how many numbers there are in preseason that you can't get better ones than during the season. Like, I just don't think that there's that many. And that's not great for content. And don't get me wrong, we'll still bet them and we'll still talk about them on the show. But, look, if we look at the MVP market, I think that's maybe the easiest one to do here, because I feel pretty confident when I get into this and I do the whole show that we always do with Brandon that it's going to be Shea and Luka. Like, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Shea, it's going to be Luka, and it's going to be those two over and over and over again. Like, it's just like that is the most likely outcome. And there are like fun long shots. I have one on a ridiculous number on a ridiculous person like that. But if we were doing, I know what you bet last summer in terms of I know what you bet that's going to lose money. My dumbest bet of the summer is.
Wait, can I guess it? I don't think I've seen it yet. Is it Trae Young?
No.
Oh, Jesus.
No.
Is it Jaylen Brown?
It's Cade Cunningham.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I think
It's not
Detroit's
like-
going to be a wagon.
That's not that ugly, I don't think, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's less ugly than advertised.
Yeah,
But
like, I wouldn't bet it.
so the
but-
question I think kind of is like, okay, look, if you want to bet Shea right now, you're not going to get a good number. Like you will not be getting a good number right now if you bet Shea, and you will probably get a better number at some point. You will get a better number on Luka, like these, because one of them will dip or one of them will get an injury, and there will be probably a better point. But I do think that keeping an eye out for those opportunities where it's like, I absolutely need to bet this now, like that is, I think, really important and kind of tough, Jim.
Okay, yeah, I was going to push back a tiny bit because I agree with you on markets like, which are the markets that people probably are looking at. But MVP and title, 100%, I agree with you. The ups and downs of the season are going to allow you to leverage those, and you do a really good job of leveraging those throughout the season. If people are listening, they're going to know when to do it, either follow in the app or listen to Buckets, and you'll touch on it. I think some of the markets like sixth player of the year or sixth player of the year, I'm used to WNBA, sixth man of the year, most improved player, stuff like that. I do think there can be numbers that pop in the offseason and are gone by the regular season. And then that person just like Peyton Pritchard, 100-1 didn't come back for Joe. Like that was an awesome offseason look from Joe that he then was able to leverage later on. So I agree with you. MVP and title, 100%, you can get those during the season. Yeah. But I think some of the smaller markets, so if people are interested in those smaller markets, those are the ones at long numbers that you should be trying. Don't bet the sixth man of the year favorite right now. That I agree with you. That one you can wait out. It's the long shots in the niche markets that I think maybe do have expiration dates to a degree.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I would say I think that's a fair point with especially like the sixth man of the year and the most improved. Like there are certain players that are popular for these awards, and sixth man of the year I think is especially sticky because you have a lot of players that are in that like sixth man role, and then there is some history that you are going to get repeat winners, and like if your name has been around the award, like you're going to get looks at the end of the season if as long as nobody else like really stood out. And I think like even last season, Pritchard towards like at kind of in the middle of the season, there was a little bit of like a Naz Reid push again, and then there was like a DeAndre Hunter push, and like you kind of start to see that in those markets where some of the like the all-time names, or so to speak, they always kind of start coming back into the conversation at some point during the season where they're looking for like a little bit of a narrative or something like that. And you have to remember, I think with sixth player or sixth man and most improved, those are a lot of times awards that are not given the same amount of attention in the national media. So you are able to, sometimes kind of get like a sneaky value player there. But then also at the same time, it is a little bit stickier, I think, to change those people's minds and say like, well, hey, like you need to look at this player who's been unbelievable for them to kind of change their mind and say, well, like, DeAndre Hunter, Naz Reid, Jordan Clarkson's fourth in odds for sixth man of the year. And like, he has not really been in that conversation in a couple of years, but he's somebody that's name has been around the award before. So now suddenly he's on the Knicks, back right immediately at the top of the leaderboard. So there's always a little bit of give and take with those awards that aren't the superstar players.
Cashley 1100 minus 1100 Joe making a case in this episode for a Nick to win an award in the first 30 minutes of the episode. Good job by him. If you kind of take a look at youtube.com/The Action Network, you're going to see the odds for most improved player on the board there. The reason I bring this up is if we look at these odds, there's two things that can happen in the summer. One is that a group comes together and realizes there's value and smashes a guy at multiple books. And after that happens, everyone sees that movement and then jumps on and is like, whoa, that really moved. Somebody, smart must think that this is the play. I will now bet that. And it kind of cascades a little bit. The other thing I think that does happen is a simple, just like, I firmly believe this, and I almost know it to be true because you can see it in football. If you go through the Sharp podcasts, every single one of them has drawn a circle around the San Francisco 49ers. You're going to hear the Niners, and you're going to hear their schedule, because their schedule is ridiculously soft. And so you have this opportunity to kind of get in on, by the way, my phone needs to charge if you're checking this out, youtube.com. So you've got this kind of opportunity to like, everybody kind of finds the same angles. And that's going to happen as well with these award angles where everybody kind of finds one. So Andrew Nemhard, I think, is a good example of this, where even like, I think 2 weeks ago, he was not at this number and he was behind. Avdia was the favorite. And now Nemhard is the favorite, because I think it's been one of those where everybody's kind of been like, you know what? Like, if the Pacers are competitive, it's because Nemhard's probably going off and he's been so good in the playoffs. That's a good bet. Avdia is the other one where it's like, hey, Portland's an up-and-coming team and he's their best player. So, like, if there's a first-time All-Star, it's probably going to be Avdia, all of these types of things. Now, I don't love Avdia because I don't know if they're going to be good enough for him to get an All-Star spot or for them to win enough games for what this typically tends to be. But we'll talk about that another time. I just think it's kind of an interesting example of what can happen over the summer with these numbers and how they can move, Jim.
Yeah, 100%. I am with you on that MIP breakdown as well of who you want to be targeting. There's actually, when you had that up, the guy that I am going to give out is on that page. I won't say it yet. He was on that page, but I'm specifically waiting because I don't think it's a bet I have to make today. I haven't heard a whole lot of buzz about it. His number is not that long. He's on the first page, but I'll say it's not Nemhard or Avdia. So he's on that page. He's in a tier that I'm like, part of it's content wise, I want to wait, but part of it's I don't think I need to lock my money up. But I wrote his name down at the number a month ago. I checked back today. I've checked back more before that, but I checked back today because we were doing this podcast. Still at the same number, which made me feel good. Okay, so I read that right. I didn't need to rush into it. I think I can wait another month, maybe even almost 2 months, right up to the start of the season. I think I'll be able to get that guy at a pretty good value still. So yeah, be listening to podcasts. If every podcast starts saying this guy's name, I'll tell you what, I'm going to bet it and I'm going to log it. And content be damned, I'll get in on it while I can. But be aware, be paying attention to what other people are doing. Keep check on it every week or so. See if the number's moving. If it's moving, if you think it's going to be a big move, like you said, Matt, if you think it's like a thing where it steams and then people follow the steam, then you might want to move. There's also, if you look at some books, you can figure out the direction other books are going to go sometimes as well. That's something you should be alert to as well. So all those resources out there, just timing is big. Well, make sure you're doing it with purpose. Don't just fire and not think about when you're doing it. Think about why you're doing it right now. If there's a reason you are, I think there should be.
So let's talk about, I think Joe mentioned that this is a team that he has used his bonus bets on for building a future portfolio. And it's the first bet that Jim gave me when he gave me a list of things that he's bet this summer. And it's not a square one at all. I just think it's it's going to be a popular one. And to me it is, if not Thunder, then.
Yeah.
Because the Western Conference is obviously a tougher conference. And if we look at the Western Conference, you've got to pick your fighter. You can go KD and the Houston Rockets, or you can go Jokic, Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas, and the new look Denver Nuggets under David Adelman. Joe, am I right that you added the Nuggets title position as part of those bonus bets?
Oh, absolutely.
Give me the cap on it.
I mean, my whole thing was watching the team last year. I just felt like they were a little thin. Like Jokic really had to do and carry a pretty heavy load. And they didn't have good backup minutes for Jokic. Now you bring in Valanciunas. they're able to keep him on this contract. He doesn't go play for one of the Greek teams, and they keep him in the NBA. And I think that's one of the better things that they've been able to do. They really haven't had a suitable backup for Jokic. And we've seen that where Jokic comes off the court and it's like a minus 50. It's just instantly they're getting torpedoed out of nowhere. So I think that Valanciunas obviously isn't Jokic, but I do think that he's a very, very serviceable backup for Jokic. Additionally, the Michael Porter Jr. trade, not only did it take them, I think it had great cap implications for them, but I think they also were able to bring in really, really strong and capable players in Cam Johnson. I love what he brings to the table defensively. He's not afraid to pull up and shoot threes. I think he can create a little bit more for others than Michael Porter Jr. did, which is really important for some of those non-Jokic minutes as well, especially if Murray isn't like healthy, which he's often been unhealthy over the past couple of seasons. You're able to bring in Bruce Brown, who obviously has good rapport with this Denver Nuggets team, the core of the team, and he's familiar kind of with the system, with the fans, playing at altitude, and he's somebody that doesn't need the ball to be effective, but he also is a good secondary or tertiary facilitator. So I really like the moves that Denver made, and I think I got 15 or 16 to 1 on Denver. Basically, like right when that trade broke, I was like, I love this. I want in on it. And I didn't even totally know off the rip what all the cap implications were going to be, but just shaking it up a little bit was something that I really love for them. And I was honestly surprised Cam Johnson didn't get traded last year. So when I saw that he got traded to Denver, I was like, oh, I love this for Denver. I think this is a great opportunity for them. And we saw them push a lot of these other teams in the Western Conference when they weren't 100% healthy and they were absolutely thin and they had a coaching change. So I wanted to get in on them before that number moved.
Jim, I know that this is obviously being the top one for you. I know that Joe gave a pretty good rundown there of why, but what was the biggest factor for you in wanting to go ahead and get in on the Nuggets? Current best number on them is plus 800 in the market.
Yeah, I mean, Joe broke down the cap perfectly. I don't really have a ton to add there. I'll re-highlight. And this is like, Matt, you always give me a hard time about the MDA hipster takes, but the Jonas Valanciunas backup center minutes, I do think are going to be like secretly really huge, in part just to float them in the regular season. That was part of why I wanted to get on this bet. We were intrigued at times by Denver last season, but what we kept saying is there's literally no rush to do this. You wait. You can grab it right before the postseason. The Thunder are not going to, the Thunder holding on to their number. There's enough teams in the West that you want to see how this shakes out. I think it's a little bit different this year. It's part of why I'm actually not going to be on Jokic MVP. I think there's more depth. I think he has to do less, but I think that depth translates in the inverse to just being a much, much better team. Like Joe laid out, there's a lot more depth here. There's a lot more talent. And so, I didn't grab it the second the trade went through like Joe. I got about 12 to 1, but what I did is I waited about a week, heard all the podcasts, the trendy hipster smart podcasts say, Nuggets. I saw that number going, da, 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 da. And what I did is, one book had a lagging number, and It was like the rest of the market was 900. It was 1,200 there. Went and grabbed that 1,200 there. And now I'm like, title positions, I don't usually lock in too much. I think I'm pretty much going to rock and roll with the Nuggets. If there's buy spots for other teams, I'll probably do it. I probably won't be on the Thunder this year. It's going to be really hard that number. I don't think is ever going to drop to an amount that I'm really going to be looking to buy. And then there's years that if you play one, maybe two, at like 12 to 1, you play 12 to 1s a year in the title market. You don't have to hit every year. You don't have to hit every 5 years. You can hit one every 5 years, basically, and you're still positive. Now, that's not maybe how everyone wants to approach that market. I know people love doing title bets in general. People love doing title exacts. I'm sure I'll come on this podcast and give out some throughout the season. But I really don't think you have to overthink it. With MVP and title, we really are coming from a pretty small pool of teams that can and players that can actually do it. So don't overthink it. Don't get too cute. Matt, you'll have to talk me out of coming on here and betting the Magic at some point at a crazy long number, because I will want to do that. But I think gun to my head this second, the Nuggets are still the best value in the market. I don't know if now that it's at plus 800, now I don't think you have to chase. Now I think you can wait. I think that number is pretty settled.
Okay. I agree with everything. One thing I would note is the biggest thing that I found in my research is that Cam's going to bring them. They have had very stagnant role players, and they now have, because Aaron Gordon has developed where he can now create off the dribble as a passer and he can shoot from the outside. Jamal is having better and better assist seasons, and Cam actually can just like dribble and pass. And like those little things are huge because Porter was just a shooter. That's all he was.
Yeah.
And so having a guy that can actually he's got a little bounce to his game. And I think that's going to help them a lot with the offense being a little less predictable. Their offense was already good, but I think it'll be more explosive this season is the best way to put it. And that bodes, I think, very well for this Denver Nuggets team. Jim, I'm going to let you pick and choose. What's another bet that you would like to give out that you've already bet?
I put one awards bet in this rundown. It is a pretty ugly one. Is a player who I don't like. It's an award that basically no one messes around with except for me. But I do love my Clutch Player of the Year award. Again, and I say this not to Victory Lap, but more to what we are trying to get you on the app with our notifications. Like if that is not clear, you should really be tailing us, because we've said 100 times on this podcast, that's where we're going to put it first. You should listen for the explanations, but get those picks in the Action Network app. Tyler Hero, Clutch Player of the Year, now down to 40-1, posted it at 100-1. I want to have you, I love a quiz. I want you guys to try and guess the top 5 players in field goal attempts in the clutch all of last season.
I know who we definitely have on there. We got Jalen Brunson.
He's number 4 with a large amount of vomit from me, from him stealing my award out from under me.
Trae Young.
Anthony Edwards is number 1. Trae Young, did you say, Joe?
Yeah.
Trae Young's number 5. So you guys have 1, 4, and 5 so far.
1, 4, and 5. So I mean, Hero's got to be in there.
Hero is number 3 on that list.
Okay.
Number 2 is an interesting one. Who I think
Jokic.
I bet him. What's that?
Jokic.
No, he was number 6. This is a guy who always is in this market, and I always bet him. And he's like always second or third, and he's like a veteran.
DeRozan.
Yes, exactly.
Oh
DeRozan.
yeah, it's always DeRozan.
Always DeRozan. But Tyler Hero was 3rd in terms of clutch field goal attempts. Now, was he good? No, he was by far the worst of all of those players. He shot 30%. The rest were in like the 40s, and Jokic was like 70%, of course. But here's the thing. This is an award. It's going to be a small sample with lots of noise in it. We saw Ant be really bad in the clutch last season, too. These things can flip season to season. Now, do I think Hero is as good as Jalen Brunson in the clutch? No. But do I think Hero on a Miami team that I think once again will be kind of middling and playing a lot of clutch games, can get a lot of field goal attempts and really rack up points, which is what this comes down to. There's a little bit of narrative. Brunson wasn't the actual leader in points in the clutch last year, but he was pretty damn close. You got to be in that like top 2 or 3. I think he could be in that with just a little bit of shooting luck this season. And so for a number that was 100-1, I still like a sprinkle at 40-1. I love this market. I think of the favorites, I think Trae is the one at plus 1,700 right now that I like of those top tier guys. We haven't seen this be a repeat award yet, so I think Brunson might be a little bit of an uphill battle there. Yeah. Plus, I think the Knicks probably won't be in as many close games this year. I think they have a little bit better depth this season. Trae Young is a guy who that team I think is going to get a lot of buzz this year. They're already like a trendy hipster team. Usually those like trendy hipster teams just like stay in the podcast spotlight and get talked about a lot. And then that kind of bleeds into the awards market. So I like the Hero and Trae Young double dip in the Clutch Player of the Year market right now.
Yeah, I'm going to bet Trae for sure, because he had some absolutely incredible ones, and it's like if they're going to be better this year, he'll actually have some visibility, because he just didn't have enough visibility last year.
And you and I think that they're going to be better, but not by a ton. They might be like that perfect like 42 and 40 range where like every game is going down the wire and their defense isn't great and they need him to score bucket after bucket after bucket down the stretch.
Okay. Tyler Hero, Clutch Player of the Year. Let's talk Memphis. I think this is an interesting one because we talked about the division odds. I think that's going to be the way I'm going to attack it. You've got the over 40.5 wins. I have them way over this, which means I should be betting the over. I always go back and forth on this where it's like, so this is an interesting example, actually. I would like both of your advice on this. So like my numbers come out at 51.7. That's crazy. Like that's a crazy number for this. Like they lost Desmond Bain. my numbers are basically like, look, Jaren Jackson, Jalen Wells, and some scoring is going to get you most of the way there. And their drop off post All-Star, I still am kind of like, yeah, I don't know that that's great. Like, I just don't know that that's like real. I don't know that they were that bad. I think that they fell off. I think one of the things that's kind of interesting here, we'll talk about this, is I'm on the opposite side of Jim when it comes to Tuomas Asalo, where I am very much like, yeah, I don't know about this guy. I'm not overwhelmed here. I'm not thrilled about this, but I like the way that the overall roster looks. I like the overall flow, and now like they're very underrated with this number down at 40.5, and you're able to get this division odds. Jaren is a monster. Like the biggest thing is just like people do not realize how good Jaren Jackson Jr. is.
So
like
good.
He is a tank on both ends, and it's like, well, yeah, but he doesn't rebound and he fouls a lot. Cool. He is still one of the best rim protectors in the NBA, an elite defender, and has like developed his offensive game to be really consistent. Ja, I think, has so much room to improve. Like last year was just like getting back on the court, right? Had a lot of problems. He's getting older. Think he'll settle down a little bit. The athleticism, yes, is a concern. Ja's still a great passer. And Jalen Wells is awesome. I love Jalen Wells. I'm so sold on him. Love the pick of Cedric Coward as a rookie. That's a great pick that they got. It's all there.
Say the name, Matt. Say the name. Who, when Ja inevitably misses a few games, who's going to just go absolutely bananas?
Scottie Pippen Jr.
Ty Jerome.
That's right, Ty Jerome.
Back.
So I like this bet a lot, but I do think I'm kind of in the position of, if I'm wrong, they're going to be like a 38-win team. But if I'm right, they could win the division. And so I kind of just want to bet the division and not have to double dip so I'm wrong twice. I always go back and forth on this when it's like you have a read, you have a number, and it says that this bet has value and this other escalator has value. What do you do between them? I think I would rather just take the long shot and stay away from the minus 110 or closer number on the win total. What do you think, Jim?
I think you should wait. I definitely think you should wait, but I think you should grab like 45 plus and maybe even 50 plus, like right before the start of the season, because I think there's a very good chance that they win 50 games. I think there's a very good chance they win 50 games and don't win the division. And you would have been so right and like with absolutely nothing to show for it. So I think you got to at least hit one more rung on the ladder. It doesn't have to be, because like if they win 43 games, you're not going to be like, man, I had such a good read on the Grizzlies, and like be bummed that you skipped 40.5. But if they win 49 games, you'll be like, man, I was like pretty right on the Grizzlies. I was over by 8.5 wins. I need something to show for it. So I think those kind of alt ladder wins that all the books have, I think that's a good way to kind of do a little bit of both. And if I'm being honest, I'm kind of with you. I did the over wins because I actually get a little too cute, and I had to laugh. I think it was when we were in the postseason last year. I think it was the Lakers Wolves series. I think I picked Wolves in like 7, maybe was the best bet or something. And one of the guys in the comments was like, "You're the king of being like right and not profiting off it." And that stuck in my head. He's like, "You know what? I'm gonna make sure if I'm right, I'm gonna make a little profit off it." So I think you can definitely get too cute at times. But listen, this is coming from the person who, Matt, does what you do all the time. And I skip the rungs of the ladder, and I'm like, if I'm right, I'm super right. So I very much get it. I'm just trying to fill in the cracks a little bit here and there with a team with Memphis that I think part of what makes them really good is their depth. And I think teams that have good depth are good for regular season win totals. That's kind of what drives regular season wins. Now, a division is just a lot of regular season wins, but there's things outside of your control. Like I do think Houston's going to be really good and could very easily win mid-50s. So I think you want to at least get a rung or two on the ladder. But just to really quick, you said pretty much everything I wanted to on Memphis. The only other name that you did not mention that I really want to shout out, I'm gonna play this guy for an award. I want to see if he's starting or not first, because I'm either gonna play him for 6th player of the year or most improved, Santi Aldama. I really love Santi Aldama. I think he could kind of fill in Bane's shoes. Like he's not the exact same player, but like that kind of usage and that kind of role on the team, I think he has that kind of ceiling. We've seen it at times. I really like what he could do with the team. So that's a guy I'll be looking at. And once we kind of get a feel for what the starting lineup looks like and what the rest of those awards markets look like in general.
Good stuff there. We'll get the rest of Jim's bets next week when we come back. I do want to hit before we get out of here. Joe's got an award that I want to go ahead and share. And again, if you check it out, youtube.com/The Action Network, you can see his bets that are already logged in here in the app. We're going to skip over this Bucks 100-1 because I have thoughts, Joe.
Yeah, we can talk about that one another day.
Yeah, we'll save the Bucks 100-1 for another day. But this is a special that you grabbed, and it's Brandon Miller, 20+ points per game, and the Hornets 40+ wins at 30-1.
Yeah, so I figured this was a good one for this episode in particular, since these are like some of the bets, they're just gone right now. This is down to 13-1. I just thought this was an absolute banana lands type of line because Brandon Miller averaged 20 points a game last year. Granted, there were some injuries around the team. He got some expanded usage sometimes, whatever. I just don't really see a scenario where he doesn't score 20 points and they also can win 40 games. Like, I think he has to score 20 points for the Hornets to win 40 games this season. So I think they're 100% related. And I also just think that he's somebody that I'm probably looking for maybe like a most improved type of player award. He's a high enough draft pick. And I also think there is going to be a little bit more of a growth opportunity there. But given the fact that his odds for most improved are like 50-1, I think it would be hard for him to win most improved player if they don't also kind of like get at least close to the playoff picture. And in the East, it's weak. So 40+ games, I thought this is actually like a little bit of a safer way to play Brandon Miller's improvement, or my expected improvement of him over the course of the season. So I don't know if you can play it at 13-1, but he's definitely somebody that I'm looking to be playing prop wise early in the season.
Can I hop in real quick, Matt, and just say that Joe ran this by me. I have the Hornets last in division. That's like a bet that I kind of want to do as like a little like below the Wizards,
Mm-hmm.
me and you on Wizards Island, even if I don't actually think it's going to happen this year. And even I was like, oh wait, that's a really good bet. Like, I'm not high on the Hornets, and I was like, that's a crazy number. So
yeah,
that was the third. I saw 34 people at least, officially tailed it in the app. Tip the cap to them because I think that's a really good bet.
Great stuff. Great to be back with you guys. Very excited to be back. Next week, we'll have a little bit more structure to the show. We'll go over some more of Jim's bets. We'll start hitting some of the things I want to talk about as far as we get closer to the season. As you're listening to this, it's Monday. We're recording this on Sunday night. We are like 4 weeks away from training camp. Like, it's here. So you're going to want to go ahead and get dialed in on Buckets, download the Action Network app. Make sure you're following WNBA Buckets. Listen to that. Playoffs begin in the middle of September there. You're going to want to be able to check out all the best bets over there. Joe's going to be tipping in there as well with Jim. Does a great job. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate you guys. Sorry we were gone for the summer. We were just taking some time off because I was burned out, but we are back and ready to go. I'm just going to be a happier and more excited version this year. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.